Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Forgotten Weapons. I'm Ian McCollum, and if you are watching this on any platform other than YouTube today, you would be watching a video about the CZ75 automatic, the full auto version of CZ's iconic semi-auto pistol. I had the chance to play with one and actually do some shooting with one, courtesy of DSA. It's a really cool video, and it is currently posted for supporters on Patreon, on Player, on Floatplane, and of course, most importantly, on History of Weapons and War, the new streaming app that I've set up for Forgotten Weapons and 7 other historical educational firearms channels. All the really good nuts and bolts of how firearms work and how they've influenced our history and been influenced by our history. That platform, of course, is at weaponsandwar.tv, and you should totally go sign up, subscribe, and check out today's new video over there. Now, this is not the first time that I have deliberately not posted a full auto shooting video on YouTube, and I've never really gone into details on why that is, and that's clearly led to some misunderstandings and I think some resentment on some people's account. And so I figured today I'd go into a little more detail of why I set up History of Weapons and War, what its goal is, what I'm trying to get with it, and why it may or may not be something that you should be interested in. So first off, the core problem here is that YouTube is not a sustainable platform for firearms content. And it's been clear for many years that YouTube doesn't like having firearms content, but they haven't gotten to the point where they're willing to just completely write it off yet. But we've seen a continual, slow, not steady, but slow incremental restriction on what sort of firearms content can be posted. Now, before people start going into detail on like, well, this channel has that posted and this one has that posted, it's important to realize that YouTube is not a fair system. YouTube is not an objective system. YouTube has rules that are badly written by people who do not understand the content that they're trying to regulate. Those rules are then almost randomly and subjectively enforced. You can take the exact same video, upload it twice, have it manually reviewed twice, and have one of those videos rejected and one of them approved. Again, literally the exact same material. There is simply too much content going up on YouTube for YouTube to be able to objectively, effectively, and efficiently regulate the stuff. And so it comes down to essentially, I think, all of this is guesswork, by the way, on my part, guesswork and personal experience and talking to some other YouTube creators, because it's also important to point out that YouTube just doesn't talk to people. Like, I have nobody at YouTube that I can talk to. As far as I can tell, really the only way that anyone in the firearms YouTube space can actually talk to YouTube is through an advertising cooperative group. And it's the advertising group that actually has some connections. So some of the big firearms channels do have channels that they can access to actually talk to a person when in duress in the most direst of occasions. But someone like me, like even the size of Forgotten Weapons, I literally have nobody that I can reach at YouTube if I have an issue with something. And so that leads me, I don't have a hugely optimistic view of YouTube and firearms content in the future, and that's a part of why. Anyway, the things that YouTube has done, the real straw that broke the camel's back for me was a couple, I think 6 or 9 months ago, there was like overnight, YouTube decided to reinterpret its rules without actually changing anything that was written to say that attaching a suppressor to a firearm was something that was worthy, that would get a video, a channel strike. This rule was then enforced retroactively, and there were at least one channel that I'm aware of, Ivan over at Kit Badger, woke up in the morning to have his channel gone because he'd done 3 videos in the past where he put suppressors on firearms, which was never against the rules, and all 3 of them got strikes, and boom, 3 strikes, you're out, channel's gone. Now, fortunately, one of the aforementioned large channels was able to talk to someone, and after I think it was about a week, YouTube relented, changed the rule back, although they'd never actually documented any change in the first place, and most of the strikes were removed, most of the channels were reinstated that had been deleted, but it was a really sobering moment that they can and will just do this stuff randomly. And someday they will do it again, and it will be catastrophic for the YouTube firearms community. And I don't know when. It could be Literally, it could be happening while I'm recording this video, and I will find out when I go try to upload this video and discover that my channel's been deleted. Or maybe it won't be for 5 years. I kind of doubt it's going to be either of those extremes. I think it'll be somewhere in between. But the key element here is I didn't want to wait for it to happen to do something to ensure the continuity of not just Forgotten Weapons, but all of the other channels that operate in this space. By the way, before I move on, I do also want to point out, everyone thinks about demonetization. There are things that are more nefarious than demonetization. For me, the thing that's become more of an issue is age restrictions. YouTube has a specific set of rules about what content needs to be age restricted to only people who are 18 and older. And firearms content on Forgotten Weapons doesn't even come remotely close to violating any of it. And yet, I get random videos age restricted. In fact, just last week, my video on the AR-180 carbine got age restricted after it had been uploaded for a few hours. Once that happens, I'll tell you what, the views absolutely go to zero. YouTube does not recommend that video to anybody ever again. And people who are trying to watch the video embedded in other websites basically can't see it. And you can appeal this sort of thing, but it's this anonymous black box appeal. And it doesn't matter if you type in exactly what all their rules are and how your video doesn't violate any of them, it usually doesn't get overruled. So that's the sort of behavior that I see happening with YouTube that make me want to find a safe place to be able to put this sort of content. So I also want to point out that it's not just my own content that I'm concerned about, because I've been very lucky, I've been very blessed that Forgotten Weapons has become a very successful, very large channel and done very well. But most of the other channels in the firearms educational space are far smaller than mine, and most of them are run by people who have day jobs for whom this sort of content is truly a project of passion. They do it in the time that they have available outside of work and family and other obligations, and they manage to make a few bucks on it from the views that they can get on YouTube, but it's not very much money, and I would love to find a way to make it possible for them to make this sort of work their full-time endeavor, because these are the channels that have proven that they have the intellect, the skill, the dedication, the passion to do really good material. And I'd love to see them do more of it because it benefits all of us who are interested in this sort of thing. And so that is why I set up History of Weapons and War. It is a system based on a Vimeo backend. There is no advertising on it, so it's entirely subscription-based, which means there are no concerns about offending advertisers. Essentially, we can post anything there that isn't outright illegal, which is to say we can post all sorts of stuff on there that YouTube doesn't allow. And as YouTube continues to make nonsensical restrictions, none of them will apply to History of Weapons and War. It's viewable on the web through desktop or laptop, as well as streaming through all of the major platforms. Smart devices, phones, tablets, smart TVs, you name it. It's a very cool, accessible system. And what it does, because it's subscription-based, it actually provides significant financial support to all 8 channels who are on there. Of course, I'm one of them. We have 7 others who are all doing really good work. Now, the subscription rate is $10 a month, although if you subscribe annually, it's $100, you get 2 months free. That $10 a month sounds like a lot, and if it were only supporting me, it would be a lot. In fact, I'd cut it significantly and probably could have a lot more subscribers. But that money gets divided out between everybody who's on the platform. So essentially, of that $10 a month, the way it breaks down is each of the other 7 channels gets $1 per month per subscriber. I get 2, but that also covers actually paying for upkeep on the app. We pay, of course, for all of our bandwidth that we use because we're not advertising supported. And then $1 out of that 10 essentially gets lost to credit card transaction fees. Some of the app stores charge a pretty hefty chunk out of subscriptions, so that's why we always encourage people, go directly to weaponsandwar.tv, subscribe there, then download the app on whatever platform you would like to view it on, because that way we don't lose 30% to the Apple Store. At any rate, that $10 a month is not just money going into my pocket. That is money that is actually supporting all of the other major content creators in this space. And so that brings me to who did I build this app for? Who's my intended audience? Because I am continuing to post all of my content except for full auto firing here on YouTube, and everything is still being posted on all of the other paid supported platforms that I have, namely Player, Floatplane, and Patreon. Well, and by the way, if you're on Patreon, occasionally you get a video that is obnoxiously age restricted, because Patreon's videos are unmonetized, unlisted videos on YouTube, and so YouTube will occasionally age restrict them for absolutely no reason. At any rate, yeah, most of the content is, almost all the content is still available for free. We're trying to get more exclusive material for History of Weapons and War to help tempt people onto it. But the core group that I envision as being our subscribers are the people who take a very serious interest in firearms mechanics, firearms history, firearms education. I don't expect that most of just the viewers who are popping in for the occasional entertaining video on a particularly ridiculous gun, I don't expect that those people are going to be interested in subscribing to this platform. But what I hope is that the significant number of people out there for whom this is their job, this is perhaps their passion, that they will see the benefit in supporting this community, in building a firearm-specific platform, ad-free, fun to watch, that will not hopefully allow a number of these other creators to quit their day jobs and make more and better content as a full-time occupation if they so desire. In addition, hopefully, as it becomes more successful, and I should say, by the way, we've hit our break-even point, so the app's not going anywhere. I guarantee you it's going to be around, if for no other reason than I had to sign a 2-year contract with Vimeo to start it up in the first place. So it's definitely not going anywhere for 2 years. And we're already slightly past our break-even point. So we will continue to run this app 100%. But I have hopes that as it becomes more, as we have more subscribers, we can expand to other types of content as well, other things peripheral to firearms, other weapons, other warfare history subjects, and potentially bring in new channels as we see creators starting to build this sort of content, but who need that extra helping hand, that boost to go from the occasional passion project video to doing something full-time. There is a really difficult leap that one has to take in making any sort of side hustle into a full-time occupation. And that's one of the things that I really hope History of Weapons and War will be able to facilitate for those creators for whom you used to be able to do that on YouTube. I did that on YouTube, and I don't think that's feasible anymore. Well, one other example to point out, I used to get a very significant portion of views on YouTube from older content. That was part of my plan. When I started Forgotten Weapons, I wanted to create an encyclopedia of essentially all historic military firearms. And the concept was a video that I filmed today is going to be equally valid in 10 or 20 or 30 years, unless some new piece of information comes to light, but that doesn't happen all that often. And so I can build out a big catalog, and then it will essentially sustain itself. And it did until about 1.5 years ago, when the YouTube algorithm changed and it simply stopped recommending older videos nearly as much as it used to. I've talked to a number of other creators in this space, and they've told me they have seen the same effect. And so what that means is the encyclopedia, it's almost like someone has erased the table of contents and the index from the encyclopedia that I'm trying to build here. And so people have far less access, far less, they're shown far less of the old catalog of videos that are just as on point as the videos that I'm posting today. And so History of Weapons and War is a place where we can manually curate content to put things together in groups to show you content related to similar themes in a way that the YouTube algorithm ought to do and perhaps used to do. Well, we can do it ourselves. We know all of the content on the platform, and it's not just Forgotten Weapons. It's combining, say, what I have to say on the Shaspo and the Dreise with what Balázs Nemet in Hungary has to say on the Dreise and the Shaspo. You can look at tabletop disassembly of a gun, and then you can look at 9-hole reviews out on the range doing accuracy testing with it. And then you can look at it being used in a practical match environment. I really like the synergy that we've got from having all of these different channels together on the same platform. So That's a long-winded way of hopefully giving you a little bit more insight into what History of Weapons and War is, why I started it, what hopes I have for it. It would make nothing would make me happier than to be able to see all of our partner channels quit their day jobs, do this full time, and see a renaissance of new historical firearms content on the internet. And again, this is specifically historical and educational content. There's a lot of very entertaining gun channels out there, and entertaining content will always have significant numbers of views. It will be able to survive on other platforms. It'll be able to survive with sponsors. It'll survive with any number of different things. It's the smaller, frankly, what most people see is the more boring content, the stuff that's facts. It's like the eating your vegetables video content. That's the stuff that's really important in my mind, and that's what I want to make sure has a maintainable future. And History of Weapons and War is my attempt to give it that future. So if you think that this is a project worth supporting, if this is the sort of content that you like on YouTube and you'd like to see, I mean, we have more than 4,000 videos on the platform right now on just every sort of historical firearm you can really imagine. So check us out. It is at weaponsandwar.tv. You can subscribe there and then download to Apple, Android, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, or just watch it straight on the website. So, thanks for sticking with me all the way here. Hopefully you'll check it out. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching.